My friends, I just pressed the Let's Go Live button. So let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Before we go ahead and get started, we do have some serious business to attend to. And it's going to be a busy day, I think, in DC. We'll see. But let's make sure the stream is alive and well. Before we get started, it looks like it is, so let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun, deep in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. And today we are talking about being prepared and preparations that are taking place all around America. A big one, Donald Trump, the prosecution, is moving forward, and we're hearing rumors that an indictment might be coming tomorrow on Friday. Makes sense that they would do that because right now we're going through the FD-1023 debacle with the Biden crime family. It would be a nice distraction from that story, but we don't know. The rumor comes from Sean Hannity and his show saying that the DOJ is prepping for a big announcement. We're waiting to see if anybody else leaks the story, but could be a Friday drop. We've seen a lot of activity on this. And we have questions about the misconduct that Trump's team alleged occurred in this entire investigation. So we have a clip from Trump's former lawyer and some reaction about misconduct in the special counsel's case that we will talk about. We also are going to talk about what is happening with Mark Meadows. He's Trump's former chief of staff. And there was some rumors that he might have flipped and turned and now be working with the special counsel to go against Donald Trump. And that is still rumored. His attorney is saying it's a bunch of nonsense. So we'll go through the story. We've got some Alina Habba on the show today. And the people on the left, including Adam Kinzinger and George Conway, they are both very excited about the possibility that Trump is going down to some consequence. And they were retweeting and very excited when the rumors were that Mark Meadows had indeed flipped. Trump and his campaign, they released a new campaign ad we'll take a look at that does talk about some of this stuff, about all these various witch hunts. And then we'll wrap it up with some reaction from the rest of the GOP front. Mike Pence had a town hall, and he got asked about some of these issues, including Donald Trump's criminality and whether the president, who is the next one in charge, would pardon him. And if that happened to be Mike Pence, what would his role be? So we got asked about that. He also got asked about pardons for the J6ers, and we'll listen to his reaction there. We've got other reaction from other candidates. Of course, we know Asa Hutchinson is throwing his hat in the ring, and he's basically saying Trump should stand aside now. And we've got Christie, too, who is also jumping in, and they're using this Trump prosecution as a little bit of a cudgel against Donald. We also had a reaction from former Senator Claire McCaskill and bringing up a good issue about venue. Where is Trump going to be prosecuted? And they're sort of saying the quiet part out loud. They really would like him to be prosecuted in DC. That's where they have all the judges and that's where they have the jury. And so we had an interesting article from actually Andrew Weissman, who we talk a lot about here, former DOJ prosecutor, this, that, and the other thing. And he put a piece out where he's kind of saying, we'd really like to prosecute Trump. He's not saying that openly, but he's saying it in D.C., not in Florida, which would be a much friendlier jurisdiction. So we'll go into all of that and more. And of course, we'll stick around after the show to see what you have to say about everything. And so that is coming up. Now, if you remember, this morning we covered some other stuff. What did we hit this morning? Oh, we hit some good stuff this morning. Yeah, we learned that the FBI is helping Ukraine censor journalists on social media. So that clip will be coming out soon. If you remember, you can watch the full stream. We also had Newsom threatening Ron DeSantis literally with kidnapping charges. He is now posting that stuff on Twitter. And that's a fun one. So that'll be coming out soon. And then we also have this question about whether Canada is under attack. Talked a lot about this morning. And you can see this is an aerial footage where all of these little smoke flame, and these are smoke silos, these are fires burning. And when you're forward and backward the timeline, you can see they're all lighting up simultaneously. Like all of the fires ignited simultaneously, many miles apart. up at the same time certainly does not look like that is an accident. And there was no weather around. And so we talked all about that this morning. That will be out later. So for members, thank you for joining us as we covered all of that. If you'd like to join as a member, you can do that at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We'd love to have you. We do a lot of extra member-only stuff like the videos we just shared during our live streams, a little smaller, a little bit more intimate. We'd love to have you. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com. If you join on YouTube, you get a lot of the same stuff. And everybody gets access to the private Telegram group if you'd like to join. And Dolphin Fan is the man. Brought 5 membos. We'll welcome them near the end of the show. Before we get into everything, let's make sure we are properly nutrified and fortified, courtesy of our friends over at Field of Greens. Of course, we all would like to lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds. But how sick are you of all the ads for weight loss pills and fad diets? You know, we've been there, we've done that, and they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You do that, and the weight would probably just fall right off. But look, I know vegetables and fruit takes a lot of time to prepare. Nobody wants to do that every day. You don't have to. Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula, very specific fruits and vegetables that you're not going to find in any other product. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you'll look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof comes at your next checkup. When your doctor says, wow, you've lost weight, whatever you're doing, keep it up. And so let's get you started. Head on over to fieldofgreens.com. Open up a new tab in your browser, enter code Robert at checkout so you can save 15% off. Lots of good stuff there, and it is good. Just take a look. Just go there and just look at the ingredients on the label, my friend. You'll see what I'm talking about. Courtesy of fieldofgreens.com. Don't forget to use code Robert when you check out. Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, and so let's get into it on the day, my friends, because we've got a lot to get to. Now, we also have to talk about, I think I forgot to preview this, but the FD-1023 form, which apparently has been delivered. So let's get right to it. The FBI delivers the FD-1023 form over to Congress. We have some questions about what this delivery entails. Did they drop the document off, or did they just show it, or is it in possession of Congress now? We're going to unpack all of it. But this was a very important document. We've been battling over this thing for a long time. The FBI said, well, we kind of really can't confirm whether we have it or not. Then it's kind of, we do have it. Then it's kind of relevant. And then we'll show it to you real fast. They just said, here, look at it real fast. Flashed it. And they said, okay, that's it. And then now they were going to hold Christopher Wray, this guy, in contempt this morning, the day of this recording. And something happened all of a sudden. And Comer and the Oversight Committee say he caved. Now, the press release is going to give us some more details on it. But you see here, this hearing was scheduled for June 8th, 2023 at 9 a.m. This was the official contempt proceeding from Congress.gov. The full committee to consider the resolution recommending contempt of Congress for Christopher Wray for failing to comply with a subpoena. It was all scheduled today. We were all excited about it. Yes, perfect. Let's get it, baby. We've been waiting for this. And now we see, oh, postponed. Oh, man. So it better be worth it, right? We want to see what they got. And apparently it's pretty good. So the press release came out from Representative Comer. We're going to hear him explain a little bit more about it. But he says, after weeks of refusing to even admit that the record exists, the FBI has agreed to cooperate and is now allowing all members of the Oversight Committee to review this unclassified record alleging a bribery scheme by then VP Biden. More here, which we'll take a look at, which is the press release put out by the Oversight Committee saying that Comer forces the FBI to cooperate to allow all members of the committee to review the Biden bribery record, saying the Oversight Committee issued the following statement after the FBI caved. Brutal. Rubbed their noses in it. Yes. What a bunch of just weaklings. Caved. Pathetic. Actually, it's very good. Thank you for following constitutional order. Should have done it at the beginning. under the threat of holding Director Christopher Wray in contempt of Congress, and we will now allow all members of the committee to review the record and receive a briefing. And earlier this week, it was just the two of them. It was just Comer and Raskin, and they came out and they told two different stories entirely. We were living in bizarro land here. We're like, what the heck is happening here? Are we entering a multiverse? Raskin came out and told us that there was no open investigation at all. It was totally closed, which turns out to be absolutely inaccurate. That was the justification, we believe, for why they were withholding this document all the way up until the last minute. Additionally, the FBI also is making two additional documents that were referenced in the FD-1023, also available for Comer and Raskin to review. So the full committee gets the original document. The ranking member and the chair, they get access to the supplements. The full committee business meeting to vote on holding Director Wray in contempt of Congress is now removed from the schedule. What do you mean, like permanently, or is this coming back? I mean, come on. I want to make sure he left the document in Congress's possession. Do we know that yet? We haven't found that yet. After weeks of refusing to even admit the record exists, the FBI is caved and is now allowing all members of the Oversight and Accountability Committee to review this unclassified record that memorializes a confidential human sources conversations with a foreign national. We talked about this previously. Coming from Ukraine, presumably an executive at Burisma, which is where Hunter Biden got a board position for Lord knows what. That foreign national claimed to have bribed then Vice President Joe Biden. Americans have lost trust in the FBI's ability to enforce the law impartially and demand answers. That's true. And we demand transparency and accountability, baby. We demand justice. All Oversight Committee members are allowed to review this record, saying this is an important step of conducting oversight and holding it accountable. Said, let's be clear. The allegations contained within this record are not closed, as the White House and Democrats would have the American people believe. Former Attorney General Bill Barr, as we talked about previously, confirmed this information was sent to the Delaware U.S. Attorney for further review, and the FBI has confirmed it is being used in an ongoing investigation. We also know that the confidential human source who provided this information is highly credible and trusted, has worked for the FBI for over a decade, has been paid over six figures. The allegations contained within this record track closely with the rest of the investigation being done by the committee. We're going to continue to follow the facts for more. So, very good news that we've got some progress. The contempt hearing has been removed from the schedule, and we're asking ourselves what was ultimately delivered. And this was what the agreement was. According to Comer, he was communicating this after hearing from the FBI that prompted the postponement of the contempt proceedings.
But I will say this, Jesse, they're negotiating, they're offering deals now to try to cooperate with us in our investigation. And my investigation's always been about following the money and following all the leads that would point in the direction of explaining how the Biden family's been receiving millions of dollars from our adversaries around the world. So I'm listening to the FBI's offers, but as of now, we still plan on moving forward.
No, there's a lot of smoke going around if you look up in the air. Congressman Comer, you said you're still negotiating with the FBI. What kind of deal are they trying to work out? You're just asking for them to comply with a subpoena and deliver the document to the full House, right?
Right. Remember where we are, Jesse. 2 weeks ago, and Senator Grassley will testify to this, the FBI wouldn't even admit that this document existed. And now, not only are they admitting the document existed, they've allowed me to go in and look at a redacted version, and they're offering right now temporarily agreement here to let committee members go in and look at the document. Okay. But Jamie Raskin's and his friends at the Washington Post and at CNN, they've gone out and tried to discredit this document. They've tried to discredit the whistleblower. They've tried to say it had something to do with Rudy Giuliani, and it did not have anything to do with Giuliani. You said in your monologue that Raskin said that this case had been closed. It has never been closed. But here's what I believe, Jesse, I don't believe that anyone's ever investigated this.
Yeah.
This is the whole problem that Senator Grassley has had from day one. No one has investigated this. Now, I can assure the American people, the House Oversight Committee is investigating this. We will use our subpoena power to trace every bank account that could potentially have been involved in this money laundering scheme. We believe that there's some reason that Biden family members are getting money all across the world, and we believe that this document is consistent with what we've seen in Romania and China and other countries around the world. That's why it's important to us.
And so, Congressman, if the document's been in Delaware with the prosecutor for a couple of years, what's been going on in Delaware?
I don't know. That's a great question. I suspect nothing.
Smoking crack?
I just wonder if the prosecutor in Delaware even knew about the shell company.
Rummaging through his garage, looking through classified documents.
And all the bank accounts and all the money laundering that the Bidens were doing with the money they were receiving from our adversaries around the world. For all we know, and all that's been reported, is the special prosecutor was only looking at tax evasion for a couple of years and lying on a gun application. If you're going to investigate the Biden family, you have to investigate not just tax evasion, but money laundering and racketeering and being an unregistered foreign agent and bribery. So, I think we're producing information that's actually helping the U.S. Attorney in Delaware and helping the special counsel that's investigating Joe Biden for mishandling classified documents.
Well, the American people want to thank you, Representative Comer, and you, Senator Grassley, for uncovering more information about this situation, plus the New York Post, than anybody has in about 2 decades.
Well, and the FBI is not even working at it either. Yeah, so Congress is doing the job of the FBI, not directly, but they're consequently doing the same thing that they should be doing. They should have brought this to our attention a long time ago, but they happened to find out after 2017 is what we think it was. They got another report back in 2020. They covered the whole thing up. We know that the intelligence agencies through the CIA and others, including the FBI, all worked together to collude to suppress the Trump effort and shove Joe Biden into the Oval Office and down our throats, unfortunately. So the question that we had about this was, what did actually happen this morning? What was the transfer that occurred between the FBI and the Oversight Committee? And I know they're declaring victory, and I know maybe I'm just being a stickler over this stuff, but like, I want to know, what happened to the document, right? Like, who has possession of it? Okay, it's great you saw it, but did FBI Director Wray leave it with you? Because that is really the victory. I mean, I know you have a chance to observe it, but did he do a longer flash? In other words, he flashed it before. He just flashed it to more people and for longer? Or did he leave it with you? Well, here's what we've got from Representative Andy Biggs from Arizona. Shout out. He says this: the FBI's FD-1023 form is in our possession. Says, and if its content is consistent with our suspicions, then Joe Biden absolutely deserves to be impeached. No more talk and no more tweets. Now, I'm presuming that this means it is in their possession indefinitely, not temporarily. And he's just saying, I'm looking at it right now. Why? Because I want them to go and Xerox this thing and put it on Twitter so we can all look at it. And I want all of the rest of America to see. But if it's just like in their possession at the moment, and then it's going to be back in the possession of the FBI, that's a different story. So I'd like to know a little bit more of the details. Certainly more will be revealed, no doubt about it. Here's what Biggs said about all of this.
Where is this going? They impeached Trump. Are you going to move to impeach Joe Biden?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He would need to be impeached. And then once he was impeached, hopefully there'd be some Democrats in the Senate that would recognize how grave the situation is and encourage him to resign like Goldwater did to Nixon. But once he's out of there, then he would have to be indicted because this is a gross criminal misconduct. and some would even suggest treasonous, but I'm holding my tongue on that just yet. But we have got to find out how extensive this was, and then we have to take action. I mean, enough talk is talk. But if we produce this evidence that's starting to pile up, by the way, there's so much evidence, it's voluminous. It's taking everything we have with our staff to go through this. But as it piles up, if it is consistent with where the direction it seems to be headed, he should be impeached. And the Democrats cannot defend them with the lies going on that we heard earlier this week. They're going to have to come to grips with this thing.
Woo! All right, so that is broad language, not quite treasonous, but certainly impeachable. And the president actually reacted to this, and so we'll get that in a minute. But you saw treasonous is a word being thrown around. We have other reaction from Marjorie. She is speaking from what appears to be, I think, even maybe the same hall that we heard Raskin come out and speak in front of, and Comer at previous proceedings. And so we'll listen to her before we hear reaction from the president. He kind of responds out with a little jokey yokel, money. And so we'll go through that. And then Nancy Mace claps right back at him. So we've got Marjorie coming out. Here's what she said. She posted about this on Twitter. And she apparently reviews the document, comes out, speaks to the media. Here's what we learned.
Reading this form today shows the pure distinction. This information, this source that came forward, it's a paid informant by the FBI. This has nothing to do with Giuliani. This has nothing to do with the information that he brought forward in 2020. It's totally separate, and it's extremely credible because he's a paid informant. I made some notes after I left the SCIF based on the information, and I'll share that with you guys right now. Basically, what was happening there is back in 2015, 2016, Burisma was looking to buy a U.S.-based oil and gas company. And this came from being advised by Hunter Biden and his partners. Biden said Shokin was corrupt. That was around the time of this meeting, was when Joe Biden, as vice president, had said that the prosecutor Shokin was corrupt. They hired Hunter on
That's that Ukrainian prosecutor that Joe Biden is talking about in that clip.
the board to make the problems go away. That's what they specifically said. Hunter advised that they could raise more money if they bought a U.S. company. So the informant was trying to do the right thing and trying to advise Burisma that they shouldn't go this route. They should hire an attorney, work out their problems that they were being investigated for because they were having other legal problems. And that's why they were being investigated by this prosecutor Shokin. The informant was advising them, don't go this route. Why would you buy another U.S. company while you're under investigation? That's not a good idea. So he's trying to tell them to do the right thing. The owner of Burisma said that Hunter was stupid and that his other business partner was smart.
Well, that's
he also said
that's a pretty astute observation there. That's an intelligent, yeah.
He paid $5 million to one Biden, and he paid $5 million to another Biden.
$10 million to the Bidens.
It was all a bribery to get Shokin fired and end the investigation into Burisma.
Prosecutor. Wow. So you see the connection. There's a Ukrainian prosecutor investigating a Ukrainian businessman. Businessman has Hunty on the Burisma board. He's there really for just political leverage. He knows nothing about what Burisma does. He's on there. So it is now up to Hunter to get the money from this Ukrainian oligarch who controls Burisma. $10 million goes to Hunter. 5 to him, 5 to somebody else, maybe James, who knows, maybe somebody else. All works its way back into the Biden family through a number of different shell companies. Biden then goes out, puts the pressure on the State Department, using his power as the vice presidency. And that's the clip where he says, well, if they wanted our $1 billion, of foreign aid, then they were going to do what we told them to do. This was before the invasion and all the stuff. So then that happened. and there were consequences for that. So the money was useful. And the whistleblower is articulating this entire thing for us. And this was the keystone. When you're building a bridge and you have that final piece that you slot there in the middle and it holds the whole thing together, the final Lego that connects the whole thing together, you're like, oh gosh, finally I got that piece in there. So it is very important now. This is why they were fighting so hard on this. This is Pandora's box. Once this opens, they can start digging into everything else, because now they know the FBI was in possession of it. The FBI was covering it up, and it is brought by a very credible whistleblower who probably had a conversation with that person. That's what we were speculating yesterday, that the whistleblower wasn't just hearing third-hand comment. It wasn't like a friend of a friend of a friend told him on a forum on a Facebook post. This was probably the whistleblower speaking with the Burisma oligarch, the Mykola Zlochevsky. And so all of it fits.
He also told the informant this is common practice in Russia and Ukraine. It's common practice. It's part of business there. That's how their culture works, that they will pay bribery money in order to get business deals done. And that many businesses, they take that into account. They put it in their budget, basically, when they're preparing to buy another company or start another company, that's just normal. And so over in Ukraine, for them to consider hiring Hunter Biden on the board in order to make their problems go away, which was the prosecutor Shokin, who was investigating Burisma for corruption and legal problems. This was definitely illegal for a vice president of the United States and their family members. The informant had asked the owner of Burisma if he was happy that Trump won, and he said no, he was not happy.
Yeah, because they lost their voice. They lost their connection to the Biden crime family. Obviously, Trump comes in here and unsettles the whole scheme.
It invested a lot of money into the Bidens.
Yeah, of course they did. Yeah, of course they did.
But he did say that it would take 10 years for all of us to find out the payments made to the Bidens because of how many bank accounts there were. He said at the time there were no direct payments made to the big guy, but in a meeting later, after he had become more upset as things were unfolding, he told the informant that he has two pieces of evidence showing proof of payment to Hunter and specifically Joe Biden. Whoa! You see, I think what everyone needs to understand is...
Whoa, backing up on that. So can we just pause for a minute? I know we're all upset at Marjorie Taylor Greene for her debt debacle. I don't know what the hell happened there, but she's got a pretty good memory here. She just picked all of that up. Right, you can't take notes on this stuff when you're in the skiff. And this leads me to believe that we're not going to see this document. And it sounds like what she's reading from are notes about essentially, it sounds like almost like a police report. It's a written narrative of a conversation between the FBI and this whistleblower. It's all documented, probably multiple pages, multiple paragraphs, written as a narrative. And she's reading it and just capturing all the details. And she comes out and drops that bomb on us that the whistleblower says he's got documented details, that it goes over to Hunty and to Joe. All right, that's big. Woo!
That he has two pieces of evidence showing proof of payment to Hunter and specifically Joe Biden.
Woo!
You see, I think what everyone needs to understand is that business owners, at least the most smart ones, whether they're good or bad, whether they perform their business in a legal manner or a corrupt manner, they always keep records of their business payments, accounts and receivables. That's how it's done. And this owner of Burisma kept a record, especially of the bribes. And if you're in an industry where you have to pay bribes to get your business deals done, then you always want to keep a record and keep proof of your bribes, because that's how you make sure you get people to follow through on what they're done with.
Yeah,
what I read today is again shocking. Just as what I read in the Treasury Department with all the SARS report is shocking. But we are going to continue following this investigation. We're going to continue to look into every single thing that we can uncover. We need the FBI to keep cooperating with us. That's extremely important. And I have very high expectations of Christopher Wray that he'll do the right thing and continue showing us the information that we're asking for. What I'm upset about, though, is the FBI doesn't think the American people are worthy of this unclassified information. I certainly do. I think the American people deserve to see it.
I think
know every
you're
single
right.
bit of it. That's why when I left this gift, I made all my notes on this piece of paper here, so
Pretty
that
good.
I could explain everything to the American people.
Pretty good. Pretty good there, Marjorie. Pretty good. I appreciate those notes. She's like keeping it. She like runs out of there. I need a pen. Somebody give me a pen, quick, man. And she just starts writing. It's pretty good. So we got some new details out of there, and it sounds pretty damning for Joe, which of course makes total sense, which is why the FBI fought so hard to keep this stuff buried for so long. But now it is coming out. So we have more reaction from the House. This came over from Representative Nancy Mace. Here's what she posted on Twitter. Said the following. Says, you know, I call balls and strikes, and I call it right down the middle. But it's unconscionable. The FBI won't tell us what they've done to investigate the president's involvement in a multi-million-dollar bribery scheme. And it's undeniable this document is legitimate. Multi-million-dollar bribery scheme. Undeniable that it's legitimate. Well, the president got asked about that today, and he had kind of a, little comical reaction to this. And here is the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, please remain in your seats as the principals and official delegations depart the East Room.
I'm supposed to walk off the stage now.
You better run.
Wait.
The bribery allegation, Congresswoman Nancy Mace says there's damning evidence in the FBI file that you sold out the country. Do you have a response to the congressional Republicans?
Where's the money? I'm joking.
Mr. President,
It's a bunch of malarkey.
Mr. President, what do you say to Americans to convince them that they should trust the independence and fairness of the Justice Department when your predecessor, Donald Trump, repeatedly attacks it?
Because you notice, I have never once, not one single time, suggested to the Justice Department what they should do or not do relative to bringing a charge or not bringing a charge. I'm honest.
He's honest. So he comes out, wags his finger at the media, and asks them a question. Well, what do you mean? Where's the money? Where's my $5 million? If I got so much money, where is all my money at? And we go, well, we've got a lot of details that we'd like to dig into. Would you care to open up these records for us to see? We've got a whole list of bank accounts. Would you like to share that for us, Mr. President? If you're saying there's no there, as they like to say, you'd be open to a forensic audit, wouldn't you? Have no issues if that happened. We would just go through, verify that there's no funny business here. Jamie Raskin came out and said, this has all already been reviewed anyways. Let us see the document. Will you tell the FD-1023 hall monitors at the FBI to release it? That would be very nice. But, of course, that's not true at all.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests,
He should have left.
please remain in your seats as the principals and official delegations depart
Joe,
the East
just
Room.
go. Just go.
I'm supposed to walk off the
Get
stage.
out of there, Joe. Get out of there.
Wait.
The bribery allegation, Congresswoman Nancy Mace says there's damning evidence in the FBI file that you sold out the country. Do you have a response to the congressional
Sold out the
Republicans?
country.
Where's the money? I'm joking.
In Hunter's shell companies?
It's a bunch of malarkey.
Mr. President, what do you say to Americans to convince them that they should trust the independence and fairness of the Justice Department when your predecessor, Donald Trump, repeatedly attacks it?
Because you notice, I have never once, not one single time, suggested to the Justice Department what they should do or not do relative to bringing a charge or not bringing a charge. I'm honest.
He did the double tap thing on the desk again. He always does that. So this is Joe Biden saying that he's honest, and the media, I guess, will probably believe that. But we have the FBI delivering the form over. Apparently it implicates him directly. It's got claims that there are financial statements tying him to the money, not James, not Hallie, not Hunty, Joe. And so that's going to be fun to see. But this idea that it's all malarkey. Well, here's what Nancy says. We can go ahead and dig into this. She wrote this for us. Says, and since you asked, Mr. President, how about the following? The money is in your family's shell companies. Release the bank records too. And these were many of the different companies that we saw. Talked about several of these before. Rosemont Seneca Advisors, Seneca Global Advisors, Rosemont Seneca Principal Investments, okay, all of the shell companies. And these have been floating around for a long time. Mace and Comer and Marjorie, they've all gone to the Treasury Department and seen the records, and they've seen all of this, but now the Keystone has been made available, and Joe Biden is going to continue to defend himself, but they're playing this game as though there's separation between what's happening, as though Joe Biden is not coordinating the Trump prosecution because he's not directly, specifically acting as the puppet master. You don't have to do that. When you're all part of the same club and all of your interests are aligned, Joe Biden doesn't have to go tell Merrick Garland to take out his political enemy. They're on the same side. So it's unspoken. Joe Biden is going to continue to play dumb, but I'm not sure how long he can continue to do that now that the records are coming out. FD-1023 has been delivered to Congress. I'm sure they're still going to be unpacking all of this and bringing us more. Of course, we'll continue to cover it. Thank you for joining us as we break this down in the future. And thank you for hitting the subscribe button and hitting that like button so that we don't miss you on the next one. All right, my friends. Now, changing gears a little bit. We're going over to the Trump prosecution. We've got a lot of updates on this. And I was wondering if there was any more news about whether this was going to be imminent or not. And yeah, I have a new article, so we'll add that into our queue as we get to it. But there might be some problems. Donald Trump's former lawyer says there are major problems with the special counsel's investigation and prosecution of Donald Trump. We're going to listen to this gentleman speak about this, saying that he testified in the grand jury proceedings, and he was asked all sorts of very inappropriate questions, the type of questions that might get a case thrown out if they were to come in the middle of a trial. But because these inquiries are happening in D.C., there is very limited repercussions for doing unethical things, is where this is going. Now, we have other issues in this prosecution, including, was Donald Trump even told that these charges were coming? They're saying that all of this is going to be happening very, very soon. And Trump is saying that he didn't have much notice about this, if any. But we're hearing from places like Sean Hannity and Citizen Free Press, they're saying the radio show just reported that the DOJ has alerted media about a major development soon. And we have another report here from ABC News that says former President Trump received a letter from Special Counsel Jack Smith's office in recent weeks, informing him that he is the target of an ongoing investigation related to the handling of classified documents. They're putting him on notice that they are facing the prospect of indictment. DOJ guidelines state that the prosecutor in the appropriate cases is encouraged to notify such person a reasonable time before seeking indictment to afford them the opportunity to testify before the grand jury. Lawyers for Trump met with the DOJ, and so this thing is getting closer and closer to the wire. And earlier in the week, we even saw Jack Smith, the special counsel, emerge. He was walking down the street, and we got to see new footage of him, and we're like, where the heck did this guy come from? So the questions are whether or not Donald Trump has been notified. Looks like he has. Multiple people are confirming this now from the New York Times and elsewhere. But what was interesting is about the timing on this thing, because Maggie Haberman, somebody on Twitter who has a lot of access to Donald Trump for some reason, he talks to her, but she says, Trump tells me minutes ago he has not been told he's getting indicted when contacted. He said it's not true. He said, adding again that he hasn't done anything wrong. Trump's statement came amid a report from one of his allies that he has been told this. CNN, WAPO, other outlets have all reported that federal officials have been building a case. When I asked if he had directly been told he's a target, he demurred, saying, I don't talk directly to prosecutors. Now, others are saying he has been informed. And so we'll go through the rest of it. The New York Times, they said that their sources, and they're getting leaks from everybody, remember, they report the following. Prosecutors do in fact tell Trump that he's a target. They got the notice from Special Counsel Jack Smith suggesting an indictment is on the horizon. We don't know when. They've informed him that he's the target. Notification was sent to Trump's team by Jack Smith's office. The clearest signal yet. Charges are coming. Remained unclear when Trump's team was told that he was the target of this, but the notice suggested that the prosecutors working for Smith had largely completed their investigation and were moved towards bringing an indictment. Prosecutors indicated that they're scrutinizing Trump all over the place. We've seen a lot of these stories. Notifying a potential defendant gives them the opportunity to appear. On Monday, 3 lawyers, Trusty, Rowley, and Halligan, met for almost 2 hours with the Justice Department. And part of their meeting was because they were trying to show that there was misconduct that was being presented in Jack Smith's investigation. Several witnesses appeared in front of the grand jury in Miami. Taylor Budowich was one of them, one of Trump's former spokespeople. Aides and advisors to Trump spent the day in tension. John Solomon, a conservative journalist, published an article claiming that prosecutors were moving forward towards indicting Mr. Trump imminently. Trump again told the Times, not true. And that's what Maggie Haberman was telling us about. So Trump did respond to a lot of this on Truth Social. Here are a couple. Well, here's what he said. He posted, let's just go right over there and see what he posted for us. He had several different things, including the following statements. He says, wow, this is turning out to be one of the greatest and most vicious instances of election interference in the history of our country. Says, remember, I'm beating wrong in the polls, but more importantly, I'm leading Biden by a lot. Also, and perhaps most importantly, they are launching all of the many fake investigations against me right smack in the middle of my campaign by design, something which is unheard of and not supposed to happen. DOJ, FBI, New York AG, New York DA, Atlanta DA, and fascists all, is what Trump said, right? And I think this is exactly by design. The analogy we've used is like a chessboard. They're just stacking the pieces around in all the different jurisdictions. And there's a reason for it, because as we'll get to in a later segment, the GOP is now even using this against Trump. They're going to continue to hammer him with this, as is the media. His opponents are going to do it. The White House is going to do it. It is a very nice, useful tool that they can use for the next 2 years. He says, shocking. One of the top prosecutors at the Department of Justice was reportedly so obsessed with getting Trump that he tried to bribe and intimidate a lawyer representing someone being targeted and harassed to falsely accuse and fabricate a story about Trump. A crime that doesn't exist. He says this criminal and salacious act from within the DOJ has brought shame and embarrassment to this once great and respected institution. Because of this, there is now extreme turmoil inside the DOJ. He continues saying, a top overzealous and dishonest DOJ prosecutor offered a witness's lawyer an important judgeship in the Biden administration if his client, quote, flips on President Trump, who has done nothing wrong. The highly respected lawyer was incensed and disgusted at this corrupt and illegal offer. The fake case against me must be immediately dropped, and the Inspector General should launch an investigation into this and the many other all too obvious wrongdoings and crimes taking place at the DOJ and the FBI. And what has been so interesting about this is, Trump has been on the receiving end of a number of false and fraudulent investigations, many hoaxes, all claiming Trump is this, Trump is that. He's been basically vindicated in all of them. And we saw what happened in 2016. We saw what they did in 2020. We know that the FBI, CIA, DOJ will collude with the social media companies. They'll do everything to try to stop him from winning. But now, all of a sudden, these agencies are legitimate? What? Bill Barr is going to come out and tell us that these things are perfectly acceptable and normal, and that there's no reason to doubt what's happening there, that they're all legitimate and doing things above board? I don't believe it for a second. They're the same institutions. Not much has changed from 2016 to 2020 to now 2023 and so on. All the same people or relatives of the same people are still there. Yes, Strzok is gone and Comey's gone, and yes, McCabe is gone and Page is gone, but their friends are still there. It's a big, giant, cavernous, sulfurous agency, believe me. So it is not going to change anytime soon. And for other people like Bill Barr to come out and to say, well, you know, this one is legitimate. These were serious documents, you know, and what the special counsel is doing is somehow a return to form of normalcy in this is nonsense. So this continues. He pays respect to Pat Robertson. May he rest in peace. And there were some other reactions to this. And Trump will, I'm sure, provide more thoughts on it. But Trump's lawyers were also out communicating their thoughts on what is happening as the special counsel case proceeds. For some reaction, we have Alina Habba in the House. And here is what this extremely astute observer of the law has to say.
Horrific.
Yeah.
Now, look, there's a lot of things on the table right now. The most recent thing they're going to claim to indict him for is like the Espionage Act. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we
No,
don't know that. I mean, I've heard
kidding.
that obviously being floated around. Imagine we have Hillary Clinton, you have Obama, you have Biden, you have Bush, tons of people that have had declassification, clarification issues with NARA, which effectively is all it should or would have been if he was not Donald Trump. So if they do come out with an indictment, I can tell you that it is complete mishandling and weaponization of the DOJ, because we've seen this exact problem with other presidents and they're not treated the same.
Well, Bill Clinton was one of those examples where it was actually litigated, where it was found that a president has the right to choose to take or not take what he feels. How important is it? Like,
Bill Clinton paid $850,000 to Paula Jones, and that was okay. Like, look at all of the evidence. If you're Donald Trump, you will not be treated the same. That is un-American. It is not allowed.
Yeah. This was interesting. MSNBC, all the other mainstream media, they are freaking out. This is like pure survival for them.
Yeah.
They warned of a retribution president. Watch this.
Oh God.
You've said that Trump poses a near existential threat to the rule of law.
Think about what 4 years of a retribution presidency might look like.
Yeah, I know. We're excited.
Yep.
I know. I can't wait for it, man. Woo! It's gonna be good, Comey. We're pretty much like kids at a candy store. It's like going to Disneyland tomorrow, except the old Disneyland before it was whatever they're doing over there now.
I want to see what 4 years of a retribution, because they're going to do away with guys like that
Comey.
who don't support Americans.
He is one of the worst, and we saw that come out in the Durham report. Obviously, there was a suit that we brought exactly saying that, and he's nervous for his own neck. And you know what? Maybe he should be. I don't know. But at the same time, we all need to be concerned, because this cannot be the way the American legal system operates.
Yeah, and I think that's why they're kicking and screaming, because they're like, if this guy
They have
gets in,
whistleblowers.
he's going to remove the 7th floor of the FBI. Like, physically, the whole floor
Pelosi,
comes
she was
off.
just, I could just think the line, the list is getting longer and longer, but that's not really what it's about. It's not about retribution. It's about saving America, which is really what he wants to do.
But that's what they are. It's the bureaucracy, deep state, whatever you want to call it, versus the rest of the country.
Right. But the country is tainted, and it's the words I want to use I can't use on TV, but
I know exactly what you mean.
tainted.
Yeah, I am just as tired of this witch hunt as you are.
Alina Habba, what a gentlewoman, not using words to describe the DOJ that many of us would like to use. So we have more reaction. Now, Steve Bannon has long been suspected to have been in the scope of the investigation from the DOJ. We're now learning that he was also subpoenaed in the grand jury probe. Here's what we know. The Washington, D.C. based grand jury subpoenaed Steve Bannon in connection with the investigation. Two sources are telling NBC News. The subpoena for documents and testimony was sent out late last month, the news sources said. Grand jury investigating Trump's actions surrounding J6 in connection with efforts to interfere is separate from the grand jury that heard testimony on Wednesday. We're going to talk more about this. What's going on with these two grand juries? Why is it important that they're in two locations? We want to understand what's happening here because they're completely different jurisdictions. D.C. with a D.C. jury, the D.C. Circuit judges, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. Then you have everything else in Florida, which is going to be obviously a much more favorable jurisdiction for Trump. Here's Bannon. A spokesman for the special counsel declined to comment. Bannon has already previously been charged with contempt of Congress, already convicted, sentenced to 4 months in prison, but sentence has been suspended pending appeal. So the special counsel prosecution continues to heat up, saying that there is major problems with the inquiry, but the biggest problem comes from Trump's former lawyer. This is Tim Parlatore, and he's explaining that when he was called in there, like Steve Bannon and like others, to testify, there were major problems. Here's what he said.
The Trump attorneys have raised questions about prosecutorial misconduct in this case. What did you witness?
I witnessed a lot of misconduct.
What did that look like?
So it's been reported, I went before the grand jury myself. I was not subpoenaed. I went in voluntarily as in the place of a custodian of records. And I was really stunned by what I saw in the grand jury room by the conduct of the prosecutors. They made many attempts to try to get at privileged communications. They would ask me about conversations with my client. They would make improper references to the jury, trying to mislead them about that. At one point, it got to the level where they're asking me this again, and then they'll turn to the grand jury and they say, "So you're refusing to provide this information?" Like, no, I'm not refusing to provide. The ethical rules prohibit me. Even if the answer to this question is helpful, I'm not allowed to give it. And I turned to the jury and I said, and she knows it. She knows that it's an improper question. It's an improper inference. That then led to an exchange where she tried saying, well, the privilege has exceptions. It could be waived, yes. Well, if the president's so cooperative, why won't he waive privilege and allow you to tell the grand jury about his conversations?
Why does that cross a legal red line?
That crosses a major red line as far as implying guilt to a jury based on the invocation of a constitutional right. It's the kind of thing that if that had happened in a trial court, the judge would have immediately stopped everything, probably declared a mistrial. And it's the kind of thing that, quite frankly, an attorney, a prosecuting attorney who willfully does that type of thing would potentially face discipline. And I think
because it's completely unethical conduct. Okay, so let's just put this in a different context. You are in a criminal court of law. We know how important your right to remain silent is. It's incredibly important. So important, in fact, that our courts have said that the prosecutor can't even comment on that, right? If you're sitting there, if you cover any one of our trials, we've talked about many of them here. Let's pick one, the Derek Chauvin trial, the George Floyd situation. He chose not to speak. He chose not to take the stand and testify. And the prosecutor could not comment on that. In closing arguments, could never go in front of the jury and say, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, you saw all the evidence here. And if Derek Chauvin really didn't murder George Floyd and didn't put his knee on his neck and all the things, well, then he would have stood here before you and told you exactly what his position was, and he could have told you the truth, and he didn't do that, and therefore you should convict him, find him guilty because he didn't come and speak before you, therefore he's a bad person. That would be a mistrial like hard, right? Everybody would be screaming from the rooftops, and unless that prosecutor was fresh out of law school or something like that, they would know better, and the state bar would have a big problem with that. But those same types of procedures apparently are fair game when you are special counsel prosecutors and you're going after this guy in a DC circuit court. He just said, well, that's executively privileged. And this prosecutor, well, I don't care. If Trump was honest, wouldn't he waive that? And you go, wait, that's not what that is for. We don't just waive things to exonerate ourselves. We adhere to those to protect ourselves, because that's not how this works, right? It's a disgusting thing. Prosecutors should know better, but they're not doing that in this case. And he's saying that this is serious misconduct. And I would presume that a lot of that is going to show up in the grand jury transcripts. And we're going to be able to see that. And parse out what the actual misconduct was when we see it, if we see it, if this stuff is not sealed out the wazoo to keep us all from following along. They've done this in other cases. Remember how much of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial was sealed and redacted? Huge portions of it. Can you imagine what they're going to do in this case? They don't want us to follow along and see this activity on full display. That's why it's all being done in secret. We'll see if any of that changes, but the misconduct apparently exists, and it doesn't surprise me a bit. We'll continue to cover this as the indictment looms. But we have other questions about who might be involved in the indictment, including this person who we know well, Mark Meadows. Did Donald Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, flip? Is he now assisting the special counsel, Jack Smith, in the prosecution against Donald Trump? There were some rumors about this. Big story came out from The Guardian, and here The Independent says the following: prosecutors are ready to ask for a Trump indictment and obstruction on espionage charges. They've learned that they're getting very, very close to this deal. And what is this video doing here? Let's get rid of this video that's annoying me. There's the close button. Why do they do that to us here? Why are they trying to confuse us in the middle of a live stream? Here's what they're saying. The Department of Justice is preparing to ask for an indictment. The Independent has learned that prosecutors are ready to ask grand jury to indict Trump under a portion of Section 793, which is gathering, transmitting records. The use of this, which does not make reference to classified information, is understood to be a strategic decision by prosecutors that's been made to short-circuit Trump's ability to claim to use declassification powers. The section of the U.S. criminal law is written in a way that could encompass Mr. Trump's conduct even if he was authorized to possess the information, because it states that anyone who, quote, lawfully having possession of access, and it relates to national defense, willfully in possession, can be punished by as many as 10 years in prison. All right. Now, it's understood that prosecutors intend to ask grand jurors to vote on the indictment on Thursday. Prosecutors intend to ask grand jurors to vote on the indictment on Thursday. That's today, the day of this recording. But that vote could be delayed as much as a week until the next meeting of the grand jury to allow for a complete presentation of evidence or to allow investigators to gather more evidence if necessary. A separate grand jury that's meeting in Florida has also been hearing evidence on a separate matter. That grand jury was impaneled to overcome legal issues posed by the fact that some of the crimes allegedly occurred there. If you get charged with a crime in Arizona, it's got to be brought in Arizona. You can't be physically in Arizona and charged with a crime and transfer that to be prosecuted in Florida, because Arizona was aggrieved. They say Trump committed the crimes in Florida. Even if grand jurors vote to return an indictment against Trump this week, it's likely that those charges would remain sealed until everybody else completes their work. Another source familiar with this matter has said that Mr. Trump's team was recently informed that he is a target of the probe, saying administration officials discovered more than 100 boxes there. Now, this is where Meadows comes in. Over the course of the last year, grand jurors have heard testimony from numerous associates of the ex-president, including nearly every employee at Mar-a-Lago. They're going through there with a fine-tooth comb. Former administration officials who worked in his post-presidential office, as well as the White House chief of staff, seen here, Mark Meadows. Meadows has already given evidence before the grand jury, is said to be cooperating with the investigations into his former boss. That's the rumor. He's helping? Why? Immunity deal, plea deal, what's up? It is understood that the former North Carolina congressman testified as part of a deal for which he has already received limited immunity in exchange for his testimony. A source who was briefed on the agreement claimed that the alleged agreement will involve the ex-chief of staff entering pleas of guilty to unspecified federal crimes, But an attorney for Mr. Meadows, George Terwilliger, denied that to the Independent. So we don't know. Lawyer says no. Lawyer said that the idea that his client would enter any guilty pleas was complete bullcrap, but did not address the matter of immunity in a brief telephone call. So the guy calls and he says, "What are you talking about? That's total BS." Hangs up on him. But I have another question. I don't care. Get off. It is not yet known whether the testimony or the charges in question relate to the documents probe or a separate investigation of January 6th. Both investigations being overseen by Jack Smith. Prosecutors preparing to indict him. And it's getting close, right? Everybody is hearing the same thing all across the internet. Now, some people are saying this is very bad for Trump. Here's one person in particular. We know George Conway. They brought him out on MSNBC. They call him a conservative lawyer. It's hilarious. Listen.
Joining me now is George Conway, conservative lawyer and Washington Post contributing columnist. Welcome to the show. Good to have you here, Mr. Conway. So ABC News is reporting now that Mark Meadows answered questions about both potential Jack Smith cases, election interference and classified documents. Your thoughts?
That's very, very significant. And if he is cooperating with Mr. Smith and the Justice Department and the FBI, that's a very bad sign for Donald Trump, particularly in the January 6th investigation, where he was really the gatekeeper with respect to communications to Trump, where people were trying to get through to Trump and say, "Trump, you have to say something, Mr. President. You have to say something." He was the guy who was basically opening and closing the door and talking to Trump, and he was the one who got, I think, Ivanka to come down to talk to her father. He was basically, Grand Central Station that day. And if there's anyone who could shed light on Trump's state of mind, what he did, what he didn't do, it's Mark Meadows, and that's got to be a very, very disturbing thing for Donald Trump.
So they're giddy about it. We still don't really know if there is a deal or not. This is what Alina Habba had to say about it. Here she is.
Mark Meadows comes out, okay, or it comes out that Mark Meadows is actually working with the prosecution to potentially get a plea deal, to plead guilty to certain things to help the prosecution against Donald Trump. What?
That he has immunity. That's what we're hearing. It's obviously news to me. I just learned it with you. But yeah, that's what we're hearing, is that he was granted immunity, so effectively he would be a key witness against the president and give testimony in opposition of him, which, as we've seen, honestly, Carl, time and time again, this is what they did to Alan Weisselberg in the DA case in New York. This is what they do time and again to anybody that is close to the Trump world, President Trump, because they have nothing. So they have to squeeze people, scare people, and intimidate them into testifying and in the direction that they want. Right. It's very disturbing.
It is very disturbing, Alina. And Locals was commenting earlier that we did think that that news anchor was flirting with Alina earlier on the previous segment. And I was going to say I was going to fight that guy, but he's got, looks like a little bit of size on me, different weight class. But anyways, so we move on. Now we've got reaction to this. As the rumor swirled around that Meadows was flipping, some people bought the bait, including crying Adam Kinzinger. Here's what he said. He's reacting to a fake Trump post. This came in. Says, when Mark Meadows came crawling to me with tears in his eyes, Trump never said this, saying, "Sir, I need a job. Please help me." I felt very sorry for him. He's calling him like a dog. I hired him like apprentice style by hiring a viscous rhinos and rats, right? Clearly a ridiculous post. I was going to fire Mark in 2012, but the 2021, but the election was stolen from me, blah, 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 right? All this stuff. It's fake. It's not a real post. So Adam Kinzinger retweeted it. Oh, Meadows turned. They're just so excited. They're just like, they're as excited as I was about Christopher Wray getting held in contempt of Congress. But I didn't retweet like a maniac. We waited and found out it was postponed. All right. So they're here retweeting like maniacs. Oh, Meadows turned. Well, Adam Kinzinger later deleted that tweet and said, but I thought it was real. It could have been real. And Joe Scarborough did the same thing. Here's what he said. He posted this. So you're saying Meadows flipped? No, Joe. On the Joe and Mika Brzezinski show. So they're all just very excited about it, but obviously we don't know the details on it. And Trump's team is now going full swing in the media to combat the narrative being brought forward by the Biden DOJ and FBI and the rest of the establishment. They put out this new ad. Here's what it looked like.
Here's a question for you. Just how far are the radical left and inside the Beltway bandits willing to go to stop him? We all know they hate him for winning the fight to protect life, for exposing their deep state, for draining their precious swamp. And they already know he'll crush Biden. So like a pack of rabid wolves, they attack. So let's impeach him. Let's get tainted radical left prosecutors to charge him. Let's conspire with Hillary and the FBI with fake stories about him. All to distract from Biden's incompetence, weakness, and money-grabbing corruption. But here's the thing, he'll never blink. That's called having the courage of your convictions. And it's why he's our president.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Yeah, baby. Woo! Amazing. So there's Donald Trump calling out the wolves as they are, as the prosecution continues. Of course, we will continue to cover it. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking this video and joining us on the next one. All right, my friends. Now we've got one final segment on this stuff. Now we got Mike Pence, and he's squirming all over the place on this. Here it is. Mike Pence announces he's running for president, and he gets some questions that he doesn't really want to answer, which is an important part of running for president. He was at a town hall with CNN. We have a couple awkward exchanges. You can see he's actually squirming, like literally squirming. Watch his shoulders here. He's like, gosh, and we're going to go through it. But he gets asked about what happens if Trump does get convicted. You're the president, Mr. Pence. You've got now the pardon power. Would you take a look at what this DOJ is doing, what this special counsel have done? Would you say that this is an impartial system of justice? Maybe if Trump would have put all of his documents on an email server in a closet, maybe this would have been something that you would have overlooked at the FBI, DOJ. Would you pardon him to correct this injustice? He gets asked about it. And he also gets asked about the J6ers and about whether they should be pardoned or not. But this is going to be part of a new narrative as Donald Trump is being prosecuted here in America in multiple jurisdictions, from New York to Georgia to D.C. Circuit in Florida to D.C. Circuit and the Florida Circuit, the federal courts in those two locations. Many different pieces being moved around. The GOP candidates are going to start talking about this and start hitting Trump over the head with it if they can. So we've got reaction from them as well. And we will talk about that venue, those two different locations, because there is some interesting stuff there. But here is what happened with Pence on CNN, specifically asked about this. Would you pardon Donald Trump?
The Constitution of the United States.
Sir, on that, Donald Trump says he is, quote, inclined to pardon many members of the mob who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Those people were, of course, part of the same mob who built gallows and...
I think that's the wrong clip. What happened to my other clip? Okay, well, we're going to play this clip while we're waiting for it. This is Mike Pence saying he would not pardon the J6ers.
Sir, on that, Donald Trump says he is, quote, inclined to pardon many members of the mob who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Those people were, of course, part of the same mob who built gallows and chanted about wanting to hang you. Would you consider pardoning any of them? Sir, on that, Donald...
You know, on the day of January 6th, I issued a tweet demanding that people leave the Capitol and end the violence. And I said that those that failed to do that should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And I continue to believe that today. We cannot ever allow what happened on January 6th to happen again in the heart of our democracy. And I'll stand by the decisions and the due process of court in our laws And I have no interest or no intention of pardoning those that assaulted police officers or vandalized our Capitol. They need to be answerable to the law.
All right, so doesn't sound like that's going anywhere. I wonder if he's going to investigate any of the FBI agents who were responsible for instigating that, or any of the CHSs who were at the control of the FBI or the Homeland Security, HSI, orchestrating all of this. Doesn't sound like it. But it's not just the J6ers. He also squirms when being asked about Trump and the pardon of Trump. We're not going to rule it out, but he really doesn't want to answer it either. Here's what he said.
Sir, if Donald Trump is convicted of a crime and you're elected president, would you pardon him?
Well, I don't want to speak about hypotheticals.
Well, he's probably going to get convicted.
I'm not sure I'm going to be elected president of the United States.
Probably not.
But I believe we have a fighting chance. I really believe we do.
And if you are,
and I would hope, again, Dana, you're as persistent as ever. CNN is living up to its reputation. But look, there are real issues the American people are facing. And rather than talking about that, I want to talk about what the people here in Iowa are talking about, which is the failed policies of the Biden administration. And the need for us to have new leadership in the White House.
sir.
All right, so I don't know if that CNN comment landed exactly how he wanted it to, but doesn't want to talk about hypotheticals, even though the entire government is focused on prosecuting Trump at the moment. He seems to be the worst criminal, according to them, in this entire planet. I mean, we don't hear anybody else about anybody else who's doing anything worse than Trump is for some reason. But now there are people who are running for office in the Republican primary, like Asa Hutchinson. He said this on Twitter. He said, look, you know, the GOP should clarify their upcoming debate rules that there is no pledge to support a nominee if they are found guilty of espionage or a serious felony. I wonder who he's talking about. Anybody know who he's talking about? What candidate? Oh, here he tells us. Donald Trump is the target of an ongoing criminal investigation, and he should step aside and put the good of the country above his candidacy. What? You know what? Donald Trump is a criminal defendant against the FBI, DOJ, the Biden deep state, is going to be one of the most important things that he could possibly do for America, just so we're clear about that. Somebody's got to go headstrong and have the resources and the backing of a huge swath of this country in order to do that. Can anybody else challenge the entire federal apparatus, the law enforcement apparatus, other than Donald Trump? It's a tremendous burden. I don't wish it on him. I think it's a disaster that it is happening to him and that America and our justice system has devolved into this situation. But what this is now doing is for the good of the country, just to be clear. America cannot survive with a weaponized DOJ or a weaponized FBI. What are you, nuts? This is one of the most important issues of our time, if not the most important. Maybe second only to free speech, because if we can't talk about it, then we certainly can't fight this stuff. But when you have a government that targets your political enemies and consolidates power, that is not a democracy in any way, shape, or form. That it's not a republic. That's not what this country is built about. So he's part of an ongoing criminal investigation, no doubt, but it's not a legitimate one, in my humble opinion. So stepping aside is the wrong move. It's declaring defeat, when what he should be doing is fighting back against what has been a long pattern of the FBI and the DOJ for years now, unfairly and improperly prosecuting him. Why would this be any different? It isn't. So that's one take from Asa. Now we also have Christie, who's in the race now, and he's basically, I think, taking the side of the Justice Department. Here's what he says.
Well, look, I don't know, Brian, exactly what they're going to find and what's going to come in any indictment that may come. But I will say this. The problem with all this is that it's self-inflicted. In the end, I don't know that the government even knew that Joe Biden had those documents or not. But they did know Donald Trump did. And in fact, asked for them voluntarily for over a year and a quarter, and got them back in dribs and drabs. And at least if you believe the accounts that you're reading right now, and I take them with a grain of salt because I did this work for 7 years, and I know you can't believe anything until an indictment comes out. If in fact you're keeping those things knowingly, even after the government has asked for you to bring them back, the excuses about, oh, they were classified, declassified automatically when I left the office, well, that's just wrong. I mean, I know that as a legal matter. And the problem with...
Okay, everybody, that's been settled. Christie just told us. That's just wrong. I know that as a legal matter. Oh, okay. Oh, man. So we don't even have to talk about it. Supreme Court Christie told us.
This is, let's go to pull it back for a second. It's a bigger problem whether he's indicted or not, because these are all self-inflicted wounds. Return the documents and stop doing this. Why do you have to be the center of negative attention all the time? Why do you have to be angry all the time? And that's what Donald Trump has done. So I'll wait to see him make a judgment on the indictment if and when one comes. But certainly, as you know, on the Alvin Bragg stuff, I said at the time, that's a ridiculous indictment and one that I would have never brought as a prosecutor. But it doesn't mean that the next one and the next one are not going to be problematic. And by the way, that's weight that Donald Trump will have to carry if he's the nominee into a general election in November. And why do we want to take that risk?
That's the point, Chris. They want him to carry that baggage around so that he is not the candidate in the primary. I think a lot of people are counting on it, people like you. So the Democrats are also having conversations about this over on their networks. This is a former senator. Her name's Claire McCaskill, and she's got some thoughts, and she had put together a nice little scripted, she had kind of some zingers she's delivering here. It's very interesting. I'm always wondering who's writing these people's talking points. But this one was pretty good. She had a couple lines in here. Let's see what you think.
When federal prosecutors tell attorneys for a potential defendant that he is a target, that tells you what about their investigation?
Tells you they're going to indict him.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not aware of very many cases where someone has gotten a target letter before the feds had decided that they had sufficient evidence to go forward. And, that's the thing about the federal government. They don't have to do anything until they're ready. It's not like state prosecutors who are doing violent criminals. Excuse me.
Right. Does that mean they're ready? I mean, is that the point of the letter?
It means they're ready. It looks like to me they're doing something in Florida on a different track having to do with venue, which may just be keeping pressure on witnesses that may be key to an indictment that I believe will come down in Washington. But it's going to be really interesting, and it's going to be interesting politically. We don't know. So far, charging him with a crime has calcified his support of about 30% of the Republican Party. And now we officially have the seven dwarfs that are in the race, along with DeSantis, who, may turn out to be Snow White. He likes white boots. I think Snow White like white boots. So this is going to be, Trump, this is Trump's dream, that he would have this many Republican candidates in the primary that would siphon off all the anti-Trump voters there are in the Republican Party and put him in the driver's seat. So we may have the first time in history, Sean Meacham can speak to this, that we have a nominee for president with an ankle bracelet.
No! She had like three zingers, Snow White and the seven dwarves and an ankle bracelet president. Wow, she's really good. I don't know what. That probably took like a whole weekend or something. Amazing. So that is, what's her name? Claire McCaskill. Yeah, she used to be, I think, more relevant when she was in Congress. Been a while. But another question that she brought up was about this venue debacle. Where are we going to be prosecuting somebody? Is it going to be in D.C.? Is it going to be in Florida? And Weissman comes out and explains the distinction. He's a former prosecutor. And he, really, really resembles a former prosecutor, kind of a nice caricature of a former prosecutor. This is not him, but he's coming up.
Andrew Weissman, you rocked our world at the beginning of the week with your declarative statements about the inevitability of charges and the potential timing of them. We come to you first for an update on what you see that maybe we don't see as a former prosecutor and senior FBI and DOJ official.
Well, I think the part that seems most revelatory in the last 24 hours is the location where Lisa is right now, which is until recently, everyone was focused on Washington, D.C. for where these charges will be brought. And now, at least the reporting is, and it seems fairly solid, is that there certainly is a lot of activity in Florida. For viewers who might be thinking, who cares as long as there are charges, whether it's DC or Florida, why does the venue matter?
Because they control DC.
It really could make a huge difference.
Right.
The jury pool is different.
DC.
The judges are different.
DC.
And remember, this is the place where you had a judge like Eileen Cannon, who really slowed things down and was making quite sort of erroneous rulings, so much so that the circuit court, the appellate court, had to reverse her not once, but twice. Also, DC is a location where the court is very used to dealing with classified information. There's an expertise there. So in terms of speed, getting this case to trial, the venue matters. So it's something that I think everyone's very focused on, is where this case will ultimately be brought. But as you've noted in the last hour and in the intro, Nicole, there's just more and more signs that the case is coming to fruition.
And Weissman just rocked her world, baby. Just woke up on Monday morning and Weissman delivered the goods, and she's just been feeling the effects of it all week. You know, good for them. But it's an interesting point to be made, and it will be very curious as to what happens with the indictment. Certainly Florida would be much better. And I think this is going to come down to the type of charge. And, well, I don't know. So, in other words, I think they could probably bring two sets of charges in two locations. So Trump could be charged with one batch of charges in Florida and another batch of charges in New York. Or they could all be bundled up and dealt with in one or the other. I think they're all exploring it right now. It might be two separate charges in two separate locations. One might be the documents case. One might be the J6 case. We could have the J6 case up in DC. We could have the documents case down in Florida, for example. Charges related to the documents are brought in Florida. Documents related to J6 brought in DC. And we could have grand juries make decisions on both of those and have two separate prosecutions pending in two separate locations. Of course, things will continue to be revealed, and we will do the covering, my friends. And so thank you for subscribing. Thank you for hitting that like button. Thank you for leaving a comment. And thank you for inviting a friend or a family member over to come and join us as we go through the news every single day here. We'd love to see them here. We appreciate you sharing it. That's how we do grow and share our message with more. But that is it for us on the day. And we covered some good ground. We got Mike Pence squirming over the pardons and the GOP going all in on the Trump indictment. Like they're going to be as giddy as the left is. I'm sure of it. We had questions about whether Mark Meadows flipped or not. Time will tell. Some rumors say he did. Some others say he didn't. We got updates about the misconduct taking place in the special counsel's case. We had Trump's former lawyer, Parlatore, come out and explain what he witnessed. And we've had some other questions about what the legal team is experiencing. And then, of course, we had the FD-1023 document that we revealed more about at the start of the show. Looks like the Oversight Committee got their hands on the document. We heard from Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. And so if you missed any of that, make sure you go back and check it out. Otherwise, the segments will be out soon. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. Now, let's hear from you and see what you have to say over from our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, our amazing community, our friends on YouTube, our friends on Rumble, and of course on Twitter, where we will go and say hello. But in the house today, we've got Dolphin Fan is the man. Says, just finished a 3-day fasting with just drinking water. My mind and soul feel great. My body a little tired, and I'm not hungry. Thank God. Woo, Dolphin Fan. Congratulations, man. You know, I don't think I've ever done that. I mean, not certainly like as an adult. When I was wrestling, it felt like I would fast for, I don't know, a month is what it felt like. But, you know, not technically, but you get my point. I was cutting weight all the time. It was a nightmare. Sort of why I stopped doing the sport. But it is awesome. And I've heard people do this. I mean, my former business partner used to do his fasts all the time. I have another friend who did a 5-day fast. He's like, I saw Jesus, I think. I was like, you're kidding me. He's like, yeah. I'm like, I thought you're Jewish. She's like, no, but still. I was like, oh, all right. So my mind and soul feel great. My body a little tired and I'm not hungry. Thank God. So there's a lot, I think, of utility to that. And maybe I'll have to try it one day. I don't know. So very, very cool. Thank you for the update. And Dolphin Fan brought in 5 new membos. Guess who's coming in here? We got P-Dubs in the house. We got Zancy Pelosi, Lauren C., C. Fetzer, and Be Happy all in the house. Very, very nice to have you. And thank you, Dolphin Fan. And hey, new members, don't forget to grab the Telegram link, especially on YouTube. That's where we're doing the after party. So when the show's over here on YouTube, we hop on in onto Telegram and hang out for a little bit longer for members only debriefs. Now we got Stephen Mosher. Thank you, Stephen. No message on there, but just a very generous super chat. Stephen, thank you very much for sending that in. Hopefully you're having a beautiful day, my friend. This one came in from Don G. Don G has the superhero pair, which, you know, a pair is not a regular in my rotation. I don't really know why. I mean, I do like pairs, but they're just not regularly in the rotation. But they are good. Is that because they're just not as seasonal? What's the deal with pairs? Why are they not as ubiquitous as everything else? I don't know. It's a good question. But Don G, thank you, Don, for the nice tip in the house. Another one from Stephen. Thank you, Stephen. Hey, this one says fist bump. All right, my man. Fist bump to you back. Thank you very much, Stephen, for sending that one in. GR Gracie says, is there a protocol in place to reverse Trump's impeachments? Seeing how he was impeached for suggesting that Zelensky investigate the crimes that have become glaringly apparent. Well, no. I mean, there's really nobody to appeal to. I think that reversing, you know, if he wins the presidency again, I mean, that's going to be a pretty big public reversal. You know, we don't care about any of that. We put him back in there. But I mean, it's kind of the end of the game. It's kind of the end of the line. You know, are you going to appeal it to the Supreme Court or something? And they're going to say, well, you know, it's just an impeachment. He ultimately wasn't convicted either time. So I would argue he's been exonerated. But I think winning the presidency would be the greatest revenge ever. And thank you very much, Gracie, in the house. This one came in from Debbie. Says Trump's birthday is June 14th. Do you think they're going to indict him on his birthday? That's my guess. Wow, that's a good question. So let's see, when is the 14th? That's going to be next Wednesday. So happy upcoming birthday, President Trump. Tomorrow I think would be a good day to do it. You know, they typically, actually tomorrow, maybe Monday. I think maybe Monday might be the better day. It's probably going to be soon, and it just makes sense for them to do it soon. Because the longer they wait, the more political it's going to get. A lot more criticism the longer they wait. So and you want the prosecution to influence the primaries, and you want the trial to influence the general. And so the timing right now is basically perfect. Linda Ramey's in the house. Says, I sent you a video by Ukraine investigators on Biden crimes, which is a lot of info that has not been reported. Very cool. You sent that to my Spotlight Lawyer address? I will take a look at that, Linda. Thank you. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that this morning, too, about Ukraine putting pressure on Ukraine through the FBI, putting pressure on American journalists to censor them on Twitter. A lot of stuff there. Hey, Carl's here. First super chat from Carl. Carl, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you come on back. But he says, great content, Robert. Enjoy it. Thank you, Carl. I very much appreciate you being here. I appreciate our conversations here a lot. We had this one from Toby. Toby Clears here. Says, thank you for your great work. Without sharing, there can be no justice. Without justice, there can be no peace. Without peace, there can be no future. The world teacher. Reference Benjamin Cream. Let me read that again. Without sharing, there can be no justice. Without justice, there can be no peace. Without peace, there can be no future. The world teacher, Benjamin Cream. It's a good quote. Justice is extremely important. That's why I get so bent out of shape over it when they are perverting it for their own political gain. It is gross. Ayako Bachi's in the house. Sent in this one, 10. Man, I feel you on that. Sometimes I just feel totally 10'd out myself. Is that the show? Are you giving me a 10 out of 10 on the show? Thank you. Thank you. I'll take it. A 10 out of 10, or is it 10 out of 100? or 10 out of 50 or 10 out of 30 or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, I'll continue my first thought. Thank you, Ayako Bachi in the house. Fred Pedamonte says 20 indictments on Trump. Biden's $10 million, 0. BS. Yeah, that's a very, very pithy comment and absolutely true. Joe Biden, I mean, I don't even know what. There's layers of criminality there, at least for Hunter. And they'll probably hit him with a gun charge and a tax charge. Good to see you, Fred. And Johnny in the house. A bad poet says, I have to wonder, with all the documents being found, has anyone searched Nancy Pelosi's house? I don't know. Or any of these people. You know, Schumer's house, McConnell's house, Feinstein's house. You know, these people have been around there for 40 years. What is in there? Who knows? That came in from a bad poet. Good to see you, a bad poet. We had this one from Naz Amar. Good to see you, Naz. Says, endless lies, endless wars, endless inflation, endless printing, endless oppression, endless subjugation, endless surveillance. Who will put an end to the endless? It's a good comment. Yeah, and I think it's going to be a long battle ahead. I mean, I think that these things ultimately will collapse in on themselves, right? Inflation will pop at some point. The printing will result in that. People will get tired of the oppression, the subjugation, the surveillance. People they yearn for freedom. So being trapped like little caged animals, right? People rebel against that. People flee. Look what's happening to the population of China and other places like that. The lies will continue. Those will always go on. The war is very likely to. I think the question is, what can we do about it? How do we pull ourselves out of this communal entity, this communal-based society, and emerge into a new structure that's focused on individual sovereignty and community rather than communalism. Community with like-minded people who agree with your values, the true American values, not the other world where they're living according to terms that they can't even hardly define. You know, how do you have a democracy if you can't agree on the basic facts of society? Very hard to do that. So at some point, there's going to be a resorting of the values, and people are going to declare what values they're aligned with. Are you aligned with the alphabet people, or are you aligned with other more traditional structures of gender identity and morality and theology and all of the other things? There will be a division. The country has been very coupled for a long time because we had a shared set of values. But as that waters down, I think that there will be separate systems and not necessarily two. And so individual sovereignty, community sovereignty, family sovereignty are all things that I'm thinking about, because I know in those other systems, it will be endless wars, right? The government, they're just going to have to continue to fight each other in order to cover up all of the other mistakes and to justify the spending. And, it's a giant accounting scam. Wars, giant accounting scam as well. Nobody knows what we're doing. Yeah, print more money and send it over there. It's to save democracy, blah, blah, blah. So good comment, Naz. And I appreciate you being here, man. We had this one from Trust 2 Kids. Says, thanks, Rob, for another great show. My blood was boiling. Me too. It's good to see you, Trust 2 Kids. Hey, at least those correlate. A good show with high blood pressure, at least that's good. Sometimes that's not so good, but I appreciate it. We had this one from Facts Matter. Says, VP living a tough version of men are from Mars, women are from Venus. You are the best, VP and mod crew, from Facts Matter. Yeah, that's funny. VP living a tough version of men are from Mars, women are from Venus today. We love you, V. We love the mods. We got the best mods in the house. And it's just so great. So thank you, Facts Matter, for sending some loves the mods' way. Totally true. Yeah, what we saw on our locals, we saw Vientikis, I think, singing a song the other day. Gentifer is here. Hey, Gentifer. Says, Rob and Alina sitting in a tree. Kissing. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes something that's not coming at all. Keep on rocking it, Rob. Well, thank you. And that Newsmax anchor bro was definitely flirting with my Alina. Habba! I noticed it too. So we'll have to settle that out later. Gonna have to start lifting some more weights so I can defend my honor. What do they call him in the fighting things, We'll have to figure it out. Yeah, Bonnie says, Rob, get in line, bro. I know. But hey, we're all, we're having a little fantasy moment here on the show. And so that came in from Jentifer in the house. And of course, wait a minute. Tara Rayner, do we have breaking news here? Trump has been indicted? Don't tell me this. Are you serious? Let's check it out. Is that breaking news, my friends? Do we have that happening this very moment? Let's see. Do we have a duel? A duel. That's it. That's what I was thinking of. A duel. Okay, so we're checking out to see if there was an indictment anywhere. That something just dropped. Yeah, pistols, white gloves, duel. All right, so here we are. We're on New York Times. We don't see them here. Trump's True Social, somebody says. Let's check that out. Gosh. Here we go. Wow. Oh my goodness. Here we go, my friends. Trump posted this June 8th, 4:21 p.m. The corrupt Biden administration has informed my attorneys that I have been indicted, seemingly over the boxes hoax. Even though Joe Biden has 1,800 boxes at the University of Delaware, additional boxes in Chinatown, and even more boxes at the University of Pennsylvania, and documents strewn all over his garage floor where he parks his Corvette, and which is secured by only a garage door that is paper thin and open much of the time. Trump continues in page 2. He says, I have been summoned to appear at the federal courthouse in Miami on Tuesday at 3 p.m. I never thought it possible that such a thing could happen to a former president of the United States, who received far more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country, and is currently leading by far all candidates, both Democrat and Republican, in polls of the 2024 presidential election. I am an innocent man. He says, this is indeed a dark day for the United States of America. We are a country in serious and rapid decline, but together we will make America great again. Very brief statement. And we knew this was coming. I was not expecting it to drop here at the end of the day. I was expecting an early morning indictment tomorrow. But as we see, this looks like it is the Miami case. And Trump is telling us that he's got an appearance on Tuesday at 3 p.m. And we had just finished talking about the discussion between venue. Why would they be in Miami? The documents, of course, were found in Miami, so they can claim that is the nexus of the crime. So Miami will be first. And this is the federal indictment of Donald Trump, which is a big deal. This is a historic moment in America. This has never happened before. This will lead to all sorts of constitutional problems that I don't even think they are prepared for personally. I'm not sure that they know what they've done. In other words, I think they're treating this as though Trump is just a regular defendant and that this is going to be received by America as though Trump is just some regular degenerate criminal out there who is just should be locked up immediately, because that's what their base has said for so long. But this is not that case. This is like dividing by zero in many ways, and it's going to wreck a lot of their legitimacy. I'm sure they have thought through it. I'm sure they're cognizant of what this is going to do, but this is the break glass in case of emergency moment for them. And they have no choice. Joe Biden can't even hardly speak. Trump is crushing in the polls. So the only thing that will save them at this point is to use their levers of power to remove him from the playing field. And if we were outsiders looking in another country and observing this type of behavior, we would be condemning that country for prosecuting their political enemies. We would say, how is this even possible? We have many comparison cases where other people have classified documents problems. And a recent example where the FBI covered up for Hillary, she had tons of documents on email servers in a closet. And they rewrote the law to not indict her. And she was not even a presidential person. She was running at the time, and they twisted themselves in a pretzel to not indict her. But in this case, they're doing the opposite. They're twisting themselves in a pretzel to take what is essentially a process crime. Trump had overdue library books down at Mar-a-Lago. Deborah Stidel Wall is now the most powerful person in the country. She gets to dictate whether or not a former president gets raided by the FBI. She says, those are my overdue library books. I want those back. And when Trump, who was the president of the country, the root source of power for the executive branch, when he makes a decision that many of us who live in a logical society would think would supersede her position, that's not taken into account. Instead, Trump can have meetings with FBI agents at Mar-a-Lago. He can have everything secured in a SCIF where there were no leaks up until the FBI came in, got the documents with their moles at Mar-a-Lago, taking back what they claim are classified materials, and concocting a scheme to prosecute Trump that hits right in the middle of primary season, and that's going to carry into the full election cycle. And this case is being brought out of Florida, which is in fact good news for Trump. He's going to have, I would presume, more of a defense there than he would out of DC. But this also means, my friends, that DC is coming soon too. I have no doubt in my mind. It's just a matter of time until it comes there as well. And then we'll fast forward and we'll have another indictment out of Georgia. That's going to make 4 of them. Georgia, New York, DC, Florida, 2 of those in the federal court system. So amazing that Trump is here, something we've long suspected would happen. We were wondering how the Democrats would do this. Bang this drum, scream like hysterical lunatics for years and years, and only in order to drop this. It was clear that this was going to come. And so Donald Trump is now confirming for us, for the first time in history, a weaponized Biden DOJ is prosecuting a former president. And this is going to cause problems. We have questions now. Are they going to hold him in custody? Are they going to go through the same process that we went through in New York? Is a judge going to require him to put an ankle monitor on? Or require him to post bond? Or hold him non-bondable, or put travel restrictions on him, or make him check in with a pretrial services division, or get drug tested and screened on a regular basis? All of these things they could do to a regular defendant. And they're trying to treat Trump as though he is a regular defendant. I think they're going to find out that he is not. Now, as this news spreads and we learn more about this, it is incredibly important for calm and clarity in this development, because the feds, the FBI, the DOJ, we've seen what kind of people are operating there. We've seen the so-called sedition hunters and all of these psychopaths on the left who will take any statement out of context, report it to the FBI, put you on a list, retweet you into oblivion, and ruin your lives. So it's very important that the reaction to this does not exacerbate problems for Trump and for the movement. And this will slow down, certainly. There will be a lot of time to unpack all of this. And I think as more people recognize what a scam prosecution this is, we'll start to see more uniformity, a more unified voice, and we'll see what the GOP does and how this shifts the country, because it is a major shift. Now, Donald Trump has not posted anything more. He's now on Truth Social, says they're not coming after me, they're coming after you. I'm just standing in their way. And this will be a much bigger deal. Now, as we saw, we don't know yeah, there's calm and free. So I'm taking a look at the chat. Yeah, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to work out. This is not a yeah, Jackie Kennedy. Yeah, this is part of, we knew this was coming. This is all going to be part of their plan. And there's a lot of sick people out there who are going to be very giddy. Let's see what Twitter has to say. A lot of the lefties are going to be thrilled. And we've got a trending tweet. We've got a bunch of stuff. A lot of reaction on Twitter. A lot of people saying things like Happy Indictment Day and so on. I'll spare us the annoyances here. But let's see what other news stories have for us. CNN, they've got some updates. And they've got their own sources. So here's what they're telling us. Former President Donald Trump has been indicted in the Special Counsel's classified documents probe. Trump said it on Thursday, but the Justice Department has not made any announcement. Okay, so they actually don't have any sources. They got it from Truth Social just like we did. Nice. So a lot of people excited about it. Not sure we're going to get any more information on it. I mean, most of the prosecutors, I would imagine, are home. And we won't see any statements. But let's parse through Twitter and see if there is anything else that stands out. Bonnie on Local says, Trump told us last time too. Not a lot of activity other than people just kind of excited about it. NBC News is reporting. All right, so let's see what you guys say about it. Annie's here. Angie Erickson says, Zulu says he's going to be looking forward more towards the Georgia indictment. Tara's in the house, says Trump has been indicted. Thanks for letting us know, Tara. Helping to break the news. Carrie Grapsas says unbelievable. Yeah, it is unbelievable. I wasn't expecting it actually today. Bonnie shared this one for everybody for the swear jar, as we're all dropping the swear jar. Yeah, pretty swear-worthy show. Tanya Karras dropped this one. Another swear jar coming in on Locals. Good to see you, Tanya. Everybody's dropping bombs over there. All right, let's see what's going on Twitter. On our thread here. Danny McWilliams is in the house. We see Vientikis says, also, don't forget that they detained Jill Stein on bogus charges while she was on her way to the debate stage. Deplorable Fred says, thanks for keeping the scale even. I really didn't want to have to come down there, from Johnny. Danny says, you can run for president if you can't win. Think of the millions you keep when you get to drop out. Jason says, watch this intelligent, inviting show and learn a bit about current events and lessons in the law. From Jason on Blast in the house. Wow, look at this, man. George Washington Bridge today from James Pepper. Whew, that's brutal. Yeah, we talked about that this morning. Henry says, there's no reason why YouTubers can't see the FD-1023. Yeah, and Trump got indicted. Now, I want to see if there's anything more there. Tin Man, thank you, Tin Man, says, I love the show. Leaf blower guy should be in the credits. You're right about that, actually. You're right. He should. He's a regular. I mean, he's here like every Friday, you know. We got, thank you for that, Tin Man. Troublemaker Jonah says, do you believe that Obeezy is more competent than Biden? When you answer, you know where the other 5 went. Yeah, I think Obama's definitely more competent than Joe. I don't even think that's close. All right, so let's poke around and see what some of this other reaction is. I mean, what else can you say? Until we can see the indictment, we're not going to have much else to talk about. Trump gave us the deets, and Washington Post doesn't even have anything up, actually. So here's what we've got. Oh, here we go. This just broke. Trump says on Truth he's been charged. Nothing else here. Former President Trump said on Truth Social, several Trump advisors confirmed the charges. Trump said he has been summoned to appear federal court in Miami on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Charges would cap the high-end stakes investigation. Much of the investigation has been around actions of Trump. Trump says he's done nothing wrong. Developing story. It will be updated. So not much there. Let's see. We had the New York Times. We got CNN. Let's see what Drudge has for us. Media swarms the Miami courthouse. They're telling us. Dozens of out-of-town reporters, photographers, and TV camera crews gathered on Thursday in front of the downtown federal courthouse, killing time. Is an indictment coming soon? Yeah, came today. The convening of the grand jury in Miami has come as a surprise because for months, Jack Smith was focusing on this in D.C. Will the Miami jurors indict Trump on charges of illegally storing? Well, we don't know. So here's the media. They're all stacked up out there. And there will certainly be more, but you can see the details are pretty sparse right now. So we will likely, my friends, we will probably do an early show tomorrow. I am expecting to come back here, let's say around noon Eastern time, probably at 9 a.m. my time. I think we'll probably do an early show. Since this news broke, it's basically going to be the only thing that we're talking about. So we'll probably go early and we'll see. I'm expecting to go early tomorrow. So that will be the time. So we'll let this thing marinate overnight and we'll come back and I will continue to monitor and assemble what's going on, and we'll just come back and we'll hit it bright and early. But we had a couple of additional chats come in. Amazing, amazing. Thank you. Here from Calm and Free. Great question. Says, can Trump win as an independent? Good question. Man, I don't know. I mean, probably not, honestly. You know, it's just a tough thing. You need some of the party apparatus. I mean, if anybody could do it, it would be Trump. Could you imagine if it was something like that? Like if it was RFK won the Democrats, Trump won the Republicans. No, Trump runs as an independent, like DeSantis wins the Republicans, and you've got this three-way split. You know, Trump could win that, I think. Be very interesting. We might see some of that. You know, you might, look, the party shenanigans are going to get started now in full. Are you serious? Maybe you can't run if you're running, you know, we can't put you on the ballot if you've been indicted, right? Obviously. And they'll start trying to pull him off the ballots in different states. Like the shenanigans are going to get really bad, really fast. Really bad, really fast. So that might push Trump to run as an independent, right? And if anybody could do it, it could be him. Or let's say Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden versus a Ron DeSantis versus a Trump as an independent. You might be able to thread that needle. I don't know. Interesting thought. Now, a bad poet sent this one in, says the DNC and the gang need something to distract. Well, that's what I was thinking. I thought that Friday was a great time to drop this, but they actually dropped it the same day as the FD-1023 came out. Isn't that funny? Isn't that weird how that works? FD-1023 form got delivered to Congress today. Trump got notice that he's being indicted today. Weird. I thought that they were going to wait till tomorrow, but that is silly of me. They need a full news day out of it. You know, and you also don't like to drop new indictments on a Friday because nobody will talk about it. But Monday I thought would be another good day, but here it is. So they certainly will get it. It's all we'll be talking about tomorrow. Adesia is here for the prayer jar. Indeed, Adesia. Indeed. Troublemaker Jonah says you missed a reply to myself on Twitter. Well, I don't know where that went. Let's take a look. I don't cover all of the Twitters sometimes because there's just a lot of them. And we try to hit the highlights on them. But which one did I miss? And then there's the show. There's the show more replies one. Oh, that's why I didn't see it, because it was in the show more replies comment. And you're saying Jamie Ratskin is a communist. And Fabian communists. Now there's some interesting imagery here, so I'm not going to flip it over there. Yeah. So anyways, but that's on our Twitter thread. So it's good to see you, Troublemaker Jonah. Thank you for sending that in. Sorry I missed you there. It was under the show more replies tab. I missed those. All right. And so, my friends, that is it for us on the day. I think it's going to be kind of a slow news, detailed day. A lot of talk about Trump indictment. Lot of gleeful stuff out there. It's all going to work out. These people are idiots. They don't know what they're doing. And it's going to be something that's very consequential for them. They might be having a lot of fun right now, but they're going to have a power hangover when all of this comes back and it becomes revealed what an illegitimate political prosecution this is. They're going to try to paper over it and use all the power of the media and get everybody excited about this on their end. But we're playing the long game here, and these things are going to work out. So there is still due process. We're still going to go through the proceedings. All of the other cases we've seen here against Trump have been ridiculous nonsense. The DOJ and the FBI, they've been as corrupt as can be for years. So the idea that there's suddenly now this very sophisticated, very above board, very honorable, full of integrity agency is just not true. And institutions like that fail because they have no honor. So we will come back here tomorrow morning for an early show, and we'll piece together all the latest reaction to what is happening with Donald Trump in the morning. It'll be a noon Eastern show, 9 a.m. Arizona time, 9 a.m. Pacific here in Arizona. This one came in from Troublemaker Jonah. Says, meant the Frank White quote, but all good. Well, I don't know what I keep missing here from you, Troublemaker Jonah. Let me go back there. Well, I don't think is it on my screen? All right. Well, sorry I missed it there. Troublemaker Jonah. But thank you for the chats. I do appreciate you being here. Now, my friends, we are not quite done yet. We are going over to our after party just for our members only. And we'd love it if you joined us at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Come in and check it out, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We do member-only streams. We do Saturday shows. It's a ton of fun. We'd love to have you. If you join up on YouTube, don't forget to grab the private Telegram group link, also for members only. We would love to see you inside. It's where the chat never ends. It goes on and on, my friends. And Eat Your Greens is another reminder that we have over at fieldofgreens.com. You can save 15% with code Robert. If you just go there and look at the nutrition label and you see what's in there. Antioxidants, all this amazing stuff. And look, Trump just got indicted, okay? Which means there's going to be a lot of oxidization going on out there in a lot of lives. We don't want to be oxidized. We have to be anti-oxidized. So get your antioxidants at fieldofgreens.com. Save 15% with code Robert. All right. Now, spotlightlawyer.com/mindmap is where you can grab the Mindmap tool and create your own mind maps with a free account. We have the best mods ever. And so we want to shout them out here. Thank you to the mods who modded down the fort for us. Vienticus Prime, K-Bean, Just Cause, Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zulu, Beyond Geostars, Zach Nichols, John Allen, Janek909, Dog Digger, and Donut Mind Me. All in the house. We also want to thank our friend Sleepy Dog Lee, Geegum Geegum, and our friend Nathan N810 in the house, along with Troublemaker Jonah. Oh, I think this is why I was confused. Implying Obese equals Frank White. I don't think I know who that is. Who is Frank White? That's Biggie Smalls? Biggie Smalls is called Frank White? What? Or it's a baseball player. Or it's a politician. I don't know. So anyways, I'm having a difficult time, Jonah, but I appreciate your efforts, man. Thank you for trying so hard. But I'm just failing repeatedly. You know, I don't know what else to say. Thanks for being here. Patrick Parker is in the house inviting 5 new members. Mike H. He's dead, Jim, is also in the group. He's dead, Jim. Leave him. Stina Morgan, Jim Gerard, Geninator. Shout out to the Geninator in the house. Also joining us over on YouTube as members. And hey, don't forget to grab the Telegram link because that's where we're going right now for our after party. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. Very troubling day indeed. Donald Trump got indicted. We are going to cover that in full detail. If you missed it, we talked a little bit about his True Social post and some brief commentary about what comes next. But until we actually see the indictment or see a court docket or hear from his lawyers, we're going to be waiting to see what this actually involves, what are the charges, and what are the next steps from there. But we'll go through all of that in the morning. We are going over to our members-only debrief here. But if we don't see you there, we'd love to see you right back here in the morning. And tomorrow will be an early show, I'm expecting, because of the news that just dropped, and we want to cover that while it's hot. And so we'd love to see you right back here in the morning so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. And we will find it, my friends. Hang in there. Make it a beautiful night. I'll see you right back here in the morning. Be well, everybody. Bye-bye.